Mr. Tom Jankowski. Again, this is one of those things where I got an email, I got a bunch of letters, I got a bunch of letters of support, and I started reading about this young man, and I just, what an athlete. Mr. Jankowski was class of 63. He was also a sport athlete. He played football, basketball, track, and baseball. And I don't know if I've ever seen this before, but he won 12 varsity letters in his high school career. 12 varsity letters. He was all-conference football player in 1961 and 62. He was all-state in 1962 and an all-American in 1962. And in 62, he helped the Blue Dukes to a perfect 8-0 season in a conference championship in the North Shore Conference, where he later went on to play for the Badgers. So again, this is another gentleman where I can go on and on about his accolades, but I definitely think his supporters would do much more justice than I will. So I would definitely like to call up first Mr. Bruce Gilbert to speak on behalf of Mr. Tom Jankowski.
So why did I nominate Tom Jankowski to be in the Whitefish Bay Athletics Hall of Fame? It started a few years ago when I found out that there was a Whitefish Bay Athletics Hall of Fame. I noticed that several of my boyhood heroes were not in it. Dennis Berkholtz, who may be among the best basketball players ever to play here at Whitefish Bay, a great golfer. Howie Zion, 10 lettermen, who to this day holds the state record for the 180-yard low hurdles, and Tom Jankowski. Those were the three that stood out to me. He may be the best football player to ever play Whitefish Bay. So Howie was inducted in 2019, Dennis was inducted in 2021. So last year I caught up with Steve Krotz, class of 1975, and we started talking about the Bay Hall of Fame, which again I didn't know much about. And we both agreed that Tom Jankowski not being in it was simply an outrage. So we went to work. I'm Bruce Gilbert, class of 1972, classmate of Carl Trimble, who was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. I had a bit of success at Whitefish Bay on the football field and the basketball court and the baseball diamond. To the extent that I had success, a lot of it was because of the inspiration I got from the superstars who came before me. In his nomination letter for Howie Zion to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, Jim Rumack, who's here, class of 1967, said that Howie was a superstar before there were superstars. Jim was right about Howie being a superstar, but there were a number of superstars before Howie. A little history lesson. Glenn Buzz Wilson, class of 1950. Robert Nicolay, class of 1955. John Stone, class of 1959. Ross Dean, class of 1959. Ross's brother Rich Dean, class of 1963. Bill Hilgendorf, class of 1963. And of course, Tom Jankowski, class of 1963. With the exception of the Dean brothers, which is a discussion for another day, with Tom's induction today, all of these guys are now in the Whitefish Bay Athletics Hall of Fame. And I can make a case that Tom Jankowski was the superstar among superstars. Randy Drew summarized a little bit of Tom's greatness, so I won't repeat everything, but I mean, come on, he was a two-time All-Conference, two-time All-State, and an All-American running back. Leading the 1962 team to an undefeated championship. It was actually the Suburban Conference back then. The team gave up a total of scored a total of 292 points in their 8-game season and gave up a total of 32 points all season, with Tom as a dominant linebacker. Tom was the best player on a team that may have been the best football team in the history of Whitefish Bay High School, a team that itself is Hall of Fame worthy if Randy and his committee can change the rules to allow teams to be inducted. He also, he left Whitefish Bay with 21 individual records, which probably is a record in and of itself. He was a key starter on the 1962 and 1963 championship basketball teams, led by Dennis Berkholtz. He was a fine discus thrower, and he was a 3-year starting catcher on the baseball team. That's 4 varsity sports, 3 years in each of them, and Tom excelled at all of them. He also excelled in the class of 1963, which itself was one of the finest athletic classes in the history of Whitefish Bay High School. I've mentioned Dennis Berkholtz, who went on to play basketball at Kansas State and was an Olympian in team handball. Fellow Hall of Famer Bill Hilgendorf excelled with Tom on the football field, basketball court, and throwing the discus. He went on to play football at Yale. Tom's teammates on the football team included Tom Leiser, who went on to play with Roger Staubach at Navy, all-conference linemen Tom Lindeman and Kerry Nussbach, who are here today, along with Dave Katz, Bill Durr, and Guy Morris, so they were the guys who were opening holes for Tom to run. Ron Vick, who was a football and track star and may have been the fastest of the many speedsters in the class. There was Steve Knopfinger in that class, who was a fine basketball player, track star. Dave McDermott, who remains the most decorated distance runner in school history. And Tom Dakin, who was an 11-time Suburban Conference individual title holder and a state champion and a state record holder in the 120-yard high hurdles, who should absolutely be in this Hall of Fame, among many others. This was an exceptional class. So I'd like to thank Randy Drew and the Hall of Fame Committee for seeing the greatness in Tom Jankowski. Tom died 10 years ago in 2015. He had some challenges later in life, and life was not always easy for him. But as a high school athlete, he was simply exceptional. And there's really no better way to honor Tom and to remember him than this induction into the Whitefish Bay Athletics Hall of Fame. And now I'd like to introduce Tom's classmate and his teammate, Dennis Berkholtz, to say a few words in honor of Tom. Thank you.
Hey, it's great to be here again. I was here about 4 or 5 years ago, inducted as a basketball player, and some of the things I did beyond that. I just wanted to say a few things about Tom, because we were classmates, teammates, and friends starting in the 7th grade at Holy Family. And I'll tell you 2 stories about our successes at Holy Family, along with Dave McDermott. Dave, where are you? I saw you in here before. Dave and I and Tom and a couple other guys, we played on the basketball team at Holy Family in 8th grade, and we won that first ever CYO championship in the city of Milwaukee. So that was a great pleasure for something I always remember, and Tom was a great teammate with that. He was a big, strong kid. The other thing that that happened when we had recess out there at Holy Family in the big area there that's now a playground, I think. At one time when I was there back in the 50s, late 50s, it was a parking lot. We used to play softball there, and the nuns would not allow Tom to bat because he was a big and strong guy, and they were afraid he was going to hit one into the windows there. Holy Family. That's a good memory I have about Tom. But other than that, in high school here, I played basketball with him and baseball. And I want to say for Tom, myself, and the guys here who are my classmates and teammates in sports, when we were here, the important thing that I remember and take back from Tom and myself and my friends here, the 3 things that, number 1, we were friends first, always friends first. We never talked about our successes in sport. We were just friends all the time, everywhere we went and everything we did. Second thing is we were classmates second. Everybody in our circle of friends and our classmates were together. Again, we never talked about our successes in sports. We always talked about our successes in life and friendships. And the third thing, Tom was one of the greatest athletes that ever played here. And I'm speaking for him now. He was a very good friend of mine for 6, 7, 8 years. As Bruce said, he had a few problems beyond that, but he's well worthy of being in the hall here, along with everybody. I enjoyed your speeches, by the way. I'd like to say some other things, but everything I would say has already been said. So thanks a lot for being here. I can conclude by saying that all of us in the hall, Tom and myself, we were proud to be Blue Dukes then, and we're proud to be Blue Dukes forever and ever. So go Blue Dukes tonight. Thank you.
Again, it's just been an honor to have everybody in here. There's so much history and so much support in here. I love seeing everybody here. I love seeing everybody that I've known for so long in this community, the tight-knit community that it is, and all the support. Our 4 well-deserving inductees, can we please give them another round of applause?